Hey, gang, it's me, Dr. Steve. And, frankly, I couldn't believe it. Could it be that Fox News tried to cover up the Fed's involvement in J6? Well, according to an investigative report from the National Polls, that appears to be exactly the case. Tucker Carlson, while he was at Fox, interviewed former Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sun, who told Tucker that events surrounding the January 6 riots at the U.S. Capitol appear to have been, in his words, a cover-up. The problem is that this portion of the interview was never aired by Fox. In the hour-long interview, Sun noted that then House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, as well as Chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff Mark Milley, had intelligence to suggest potential problems on Capitol Hill, but they failed to communicate with Sun and his cops on the ground, and it appears it was all purposeful. Here's what Sun had to say.
I actually had to go in and talk to a friend of mine on one of the oversight committees to say, I will come there in person. I want to be there. I want to testify. So I'm glad you think I'm reserved. To be honest with you, I'm a little pissed off because it doesn't have to happen. If people were reporting the intelligence correctly, if I was allowed to do my job as the chief, I got a significant experience. If I was allowed to do my job as the chief, we wouldn't be here today. This didn't happen. Then see how you're out there, you're lambasted in public, and it's all, everything appears to be a cover-up. Like I said, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but when you look at the information, the intelligence that it had, military had, it's all watered down. I'm not getting intelligence. I'm denied support National Guard in advance. I'm denied National Guard while we're under attack for 71 minutes. You're in a fight?
Yeah.
A fight for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, 1 minute.
You out.
1 minute.
I was going to say, 60 seconds, 3 minutes.
Yeah,
Let me tell you, it wears you out. My officers were fighting for 80 minutes before the protesters ever broke the first one with that.
Wait, can I say, so you described this as a failure to get the intelligence to the people who needed it, but it sounds like worse than, it sounds like they were hiding the intelligence.
And that's what I'm getting at, is could there possibly be people that actually did something to happen and kind of wanted something to happen? It's not a far stretch to begin.
Well, I don't know what the other explanation is.
It's sad when you start putting everything together and thinking about the way this played out. It gets concerning. What was their end goal? You look at what's happening. Was that their end goal? I don't know.
So there you have it, gang. I mean, sorry about the audio on that, but what was so bizarre is that here you've got the Capitol Police Chief himself suggesting that the events surrounding J6 appear to have been intentional on the part of Pelosi and the Democrats, and Fox News doesn't air it. The Murdoch News Network doesn't show the Capitol Police Chief himself claiming that there appears to be some kind of cover-up with what really happened on J6. So if you think it through, you've got two horrors here. You got the horrors of our leaders possibly involved in the events that led to J6 on the one hand, and you got a major news media outlet intentionally covering up that information on the other. Now, what's so interesting here is that this is not the first time the media has been caught hiding information from the public regarding J6. You may remember the Project Veritas hidden camera sting that involved a fellow by the name of Matthew Rosenberg, who's the national security correspondent for the New York Times. And in that video, that hidden video, Rosenberg admitted that the New York Times coverage of the January 6 riots had simply not been accurate. It's not been reliable, and they've consistently published a false narrative to their readers.
The story I got sucked into doing was like, I do investigative stuff. I usually do like longer term things. But I got back to work on Monday, and the managing editor had a great idea that he could have had a month ago, which was like, me and a colleague had done like a very long 7,000 word story last year in February about like kind of the big lie about the Stop the Steal campaign, which was a very organized campaign. It wasn't like an organic thing. He's like, can we do like part 2 of that, like what's going on in the years from January 6th, kind of like memory holing it, like making it it's no big deal? Like, yeah, we can do that. It's a little quick turnaround, so we've been doing the last few days. That's the story. But it's in a meeting, and I'm like, one of the issues here is that, like, the Fox News of the world, elsewhere, is that the left's reaction to it in some places was so over the top that it gave the opening, the right even, to start introducing the idea of, well, these people are out of control. Like, it's not a big deal as they're making it. Because they were making too big a deal. They were making this an organized thing that it wasn't. And that gave the opening for the lunatics on the right to be like, oh, well, nothing happened here. It was just a peaceful bunch of tourists, you know? And it's like, just, but nobody wants to hear that.
So according to this New York Times reporter who was on the grounds at the Capitol building when it all happened, according to him, January 6th was actually not that big of a deal. But the key here is that that's not what he reported. That very same national security correspondent wrote an article supposedly debunking the so-called big lie that J6 was no big deal and that its significance was largely a fabrication of the left, even though you heard him say precisely those two things. In other words, he was publishing articles about J6 he knew weren't true. But then in the midst of his complaints, he admitted something that really is nothing less than a bombshell. Take a look.
You know, we're the ones, not Fox, not Breitbart, who actually went and uncovered the fact that, like, there were a ton of FBI informants on the people who attacked the Capitol. That was us, not the right wing guys.
Hey, gang, I'm sure you're now aware of a very new and serious threat coming from woke corporations. It's called debanking, where woke banks are increasingly closing the accounts of patriots around the globe. And one of the most important areas of protest where patriots are deliberately taking their money out of those woke banks is in the massive buying spree going on currently with gold and silver, right? We saw this right after the Silicon Valley Bank collapse, where more and more investors began moving their money back to the timeless value of gold. And we've got some amazing friends to this channel who can help you do just that. We partnered with one of the top-rated precious metals company, Goldco, who've helped patriots across the nation, get this, move more than $1 billion into gold and silver. That's right, billion with a B. They're absolutely amazing. Click on that link below. And for those with retirement accounts, the patriots over at Goldco are offering you up to $10,000 in free silver when opening up a qualified IRA account. And for cash buyers, you're going to love this. You can now get bonus silver just from making a purchase. So if you buy $15,000 worth of precious metals, you're going to get $750 in bonus silver. If you buy $25,000 worth, you're going to get $1,200 worth of bonus silver. But that's only as long as supplies last, so don't wait. Click on that link below. This is your opportunity to protect yourself from woke banks by guarding your assets with what patriots have invested in for centuries, the timeless value of gold and silver. Click on that link below right now. So you heard it yourself. I mean, that was a New York Times reporter claiming that there were, quote, tons of FBI informants among the people who attacked the Capitol. Now, that observation is rather fascinating, to say the least, because when you scour the New York Times coverage of January 6th, they don't seem to take too kindly to that notion that there were FBI informants on the Capitol grounds. I mean, take a look at this headline. Jan 6 panel seeks to debunk unfounded theory about FBI role in riot. Or this one. No, there's no evidence that the FBI organized the Capitol riot. You stupid. It's all about you knuckle-dragging Trump hicks trying to overturn an election. Leave the FBI out of this. So here we got the Capitol Police Chief himself saying that he thinks there was a cover-up, that J6 was intentional on the part of Washington officials. You got the New York Times national security correspondent admitting that there were tons of feds on the ground. And in both cases, Fox and the New York Times refused to report it. And I think we all know the reason for this. I think we can all discern what's behind not just the J6 cover-up with the powers that be in D.C., but also the legacy media's compliance with that alleged cover-up. In 2 words, Donald Trump. J6 was supposed to be that singular event that decisively buried Donald Trump and the MAGA movement once and for all. That is what unites both the political and press establishments. They both want Trump and the MAGA movement buried. And nothing that could potentially contradict that agenda is even remotely admitted into the interpretive frame of what happened on J6. And yet, the irony to all of this, as a number of pundits are pointing out, Trump and the MAGA movement are in many ways today stronger than ever. According to Rasmussen, 65% of voters believe that the feds provoked the J6 riots. 65%. In the end, it appears that as difficult and disturbing as all of this has been, it was all for naught. The populist revolt against a corrupt political class, along with its media propagandists, has been unleashed. And there's nothing that the powers that be can do to stop it. Hey gang, I know what it's like to feel alone out there in these turbulent times, but I broke free. If you too have been looking for a community with like-minded patriots who are serious about resisting globalism, building a parallel economy, and having intelligent and deep fellowship on a regular basis, then you've come to the right place. In my Courageous Patriot Insiders community, we're building a close-knit movement of, by, and for patriots who are breaking free from the outrage and despair cycles of the mainstream media and taking on the fight against globalism. Every week, I deep dive into the content I can't share on big tech and give you the cliff notes on the truth of how patriots just like you are building up their communities, starting patriot businesses, and fighting the woke in both public and private. All with a few history and political lessons from yours truly, of course. If you want to stop feeling alone as a patriot and stand together with this fast-growing community, be sure to click on the link in the description below. Don't wait. Join me and my Patriot Coalition today, and let's get fighting.